Jake Morrison stood in the center of the cold metal room. His hands were locked in chains that glowed with blue light. The chains were made from alien metal that could not be broken by human strength. Around him, strange creatures sat in tall chairs that formed a circle. These were the members of the Galactic Council, the rulers of thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The room was huge and dark. Only bright lights shining down on Jake lit up the space where he stood. The alien judges looked down at him like he was some small insect they had found crawling on their floor. Jake had been their guest for 3 years. He had come to this station in peace, trying to make friends between Earth and the galaxy. Now they treated him like a criminal. Jake looked up at the creatures who would decide if he lived or died. Meow. Fourth Act Chancellor was made of living crystal that changed colors when it spoke. Its voice sounded like breaking glass when it came through the translator device. Next to it sat a being of pure light called a luminary. It had no solid body, just glowing energy that hurt to look at directly. There were others too. The Cathari looked like giant spiders with too many eyes. The Morgani had skin like tree bark and breathed poisonous gas. The Zephyrians floated in the air, their bodies like jellyfish made of metal. All of them stared at Jake with cold eyes that showed no kindness. Chancellor Zexhi's crystal body flashed red as it spoke. Human Jake Morrison, you stand accused of crimes against the sacred preservation laws. You have smuggled forbidden technology. You have shared dangerous knowledge with lesser species. You have broken the ancient rules that keep peace in our galaxy. Jake shook his head. These charges are lies. I never smuggled anything. I never broke any laws. I came here to build friendship between our peoples. Everything I did was legal and open. The luminary judge, called High Arbiter Velnam, pulsed with angry light. The evidence is clear, human. We found the banned quantum processors in your quarters. We have recordings of you teaching weapon designs to the Rillan rebels. You cannot deny what we have seen with our own sensors. Those items were planted there, Jake said loudly. Someone put them in my room to frame me. The recordings are fake. I never met with any rebels. I have spent 3 years trying to help Earth join your community in peace. Jake's heart was beating fast. He knew he was innocent, but he also knew the truth did not matter here. The council had decided to kill him before this trial even started. They wanted him dead, and they would find any excuse to make it happen. The Crystal Chancellor made a sound like wind through broken glass. The human speaks lies even now. His kind cannot be trusted. They are too violent, too unpredictable. They multiply too quickly and want too much. They are a danger to the order we have built over millions of years. Other council members nodded their strange heads or flashed agreement with lights and colors. Jake realized this was not really about the charges. This was about fear. The aliens were afraid of humans. They were afraid of what Earth might become if humans were allowed to grow and learn and spread across the galaxy. You fear us because we are different, Jake said. You fear us because we do not think like you. But being different does not make us evil. Give us a chance to prove we can live in peace with you. The Cathari judge clicked its mandibles together, and what Jake had learned was alien laughter. Peace? Your species fights wars on your own world. You kill your own kind for land and resources and ideas. What peace could you bring to the galaxy? We are learning to be better, Jake replied. Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made mistakes, but we are trying to grow beyond that. Every intelligent species has a dark past, even yours. The mention of their own violent histories made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Jake saw he had touched something they did not want to remember. High Arbiter Velnam's light turned cold white. Enough talk. The evidence is clear. The punishment for these crimes is molecular dissolution. The sentence will be carried out immediately. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. Molecular dissolution meant they would tear apart every atom in his body. It was the worst death the aliens could give, reserved for the most terrible criminals. And they were going to do it to him for crimes he never committed. Wait, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. I have the right to appeal. I have the right to contact my government. The treaties you signed with Earth guarantee these rights. Chancellor Zexhi's crystals flashed with dark colors. Those treaties are void. Earth is no longer welcome in this community. Your death will serve as a message to your kind. Stay in your small corner of space or face the same fate. Jake understood now. This was not about justice. This was about sending a message to Earth. They were going to kill him to show humans what happened when they tried to join the Galactic community. They wanted to scare Earth into staying isolated and weak. The execution chamber began to power up. Jake could hear the humming of massive machines somewhere below the floor. Energy weapons were charging, preparing to tear him apart atom by atom. He had minutes left to live. Jake activated his emergency communicator, the one device they had, not taken from him. It was disguised as a simple medical monitor, but it could send messages across space faster than light. His final transmission would reach Earth before his death. "This is Ambassador Jake Morrison." He spoke into the tiny device. "The Galactic Council has decided to execute me on false charges. They want to use my death to frighten Earth into submission. Tell President Carter what they have done here. Tell her that the galaxy has shown its true face. Tell them humanity remembers." The execution beam activated. Jake Morrison, Earth's first ambassador to the stars, died screaming as his body dissolved into nothing. His death was recorded and broadcast to every human colony and station, witnessed by billions who had hoped for peace among the stars. The galaxy had made its choice. Now, Earth would make theirs. President Lisa Carter sat in the White House Situation Room, watching Jake Morrison die for the third time. The video played on every screen around the table. Government leaders, military officers, and scientists all watched in silence as their ambassador dissolved into nothing. The aliens had broadcast his execution across the entire galaxy to send a message to Earth. General Ryan Phillips slammed his fist on the table. They murdered him in cold blood. Jake was a good man who only wanted peace. He never committed those crimes they accused him of. Admiral Kate Sullivan nodded her agreement. "Our intelligence confirms the charges were fake. Someone planted that equipment in his quarters." The recordings of him meeting with rebels were created using computer programs. This was a setup from the beginning. Dr. Elena Rodriguez opened her tablet and showed the room dozens of documents. She was the head of Earth's Alien Relations Department and had worked closely with Jake for years. "I have proof that Jake was framed. The quantum processors they found were Vorthak technology, but Jake never had access to Vorthak areas of the station. The weapon designs they claim he shared do not match any human technology. Someone wanted him dead and created evidence to justify it." President Carter rubbed her tired eyes. She had not slept since getting the news 12 hours ago. Outside, the White House, angry crowds were gathering. People across Earth and all the human colonies were demanding revenge for Jake's murder. Why would they do this? Jake was helping them understand us. He was building bridges between our species. Agent Carlos Bennett spoke up from his seat at the far end of the table. He was Earth's top spy, and his job was to watch the aliens and learn their secrets. "Because they are afraid of us, Madam President. My sources in the alien community tell me several council species have been meeting in secret for months. They call it the human problem. They think we breed too fast, learn too quickly, and adapt too well. They believe humans will eventually take over the galaxy if they do not stop us now." The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Earth had tried so hard to be friendly with the aliens. Humans had shared their art, their music, their culture. They had followed every rule and obeyed every law the Council made, and still the aliens saw them as a threat that needed to be destroyed. Defense. Secretary Bill Cooper spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "We always knew this day might come. That is why we created Project Reckoning 20 years ago. We hoped we would never need it, but we prepared anyway." President Carter looked at him with surprise. "Project Reckoning? I have never heard of this." General Phillips stood up and walked to a secure computer terminal. He typed in several passwords and pressed his palm against a scanner. The lights in the room dimmed as classified information appeared on the main screen. Project Reckoning began after our first contact with aliens 30 years ago, Phillips explained. Some of us worried that the aliens might not be as friendly as they seemed. We started a secret program to study alien technology and biology. We wanted to know how to fight them if we ever had to. Images flashed on the screen showing hidden bases, secret laboratories, and construction sites scattered throughout the solar system. Admiral Sullivan gasped as she saw the scale of what had been built without her knowledge. "We have been building weapons designed specifically to kill aliens," Phillips continued. "We studied every species that contacted us. We learned their weaknesses, their fears, their biology. We created viruses that only affect alien DNA. We built ships that can counter their technology. We prepared for war while hoping for peace." "Doctor?" Rodriguez stared at the screen in shock. "How many people know about this?" "Less than 100, Phillips replied. "Scientists, engineers, military officers, all sworn to secrecy. We called them the Reckoning Division. They have been working in hidden facilities for decades, preparing for the day the aliens showed their true nature." President Carter felt sick to her stomach. Part of her was horrified that such preparations had been made in secret, but another part of her was grateful that someone had the foresight to prepare for this possibility. "Show me what we have," she ordered. For the next hour, General Phillips and his team presented the full scope of Project Reckoning. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt had built over 200 warships using improved alien technology. Secret. Laboratories had created biological weapons tailored to each alien species. Underground bases housed millions of soldiers trained specifically for fighting aliens. Dr. Miranda Foster, head of the Biological Warfare Division, explained her work. "We collected DNA samples from every alien diplomat who visited Earth. We studied their immune systems, their cellular structure, their nervous systems. We created targeted plagues that will kill them while leaving humans completely unharmed." Captain Tony Mitchell showed them videos of the new warships. "We took alien technology and made it better. Our ships are faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than anything the Council has. We learned from every piece of alien equipment they shared with us and turned that knowledge into weapons." The presentations continued as more and more of Project Reckoning was revealed. Earth had an entire shadow military that the aliens knew nothing about. While Jake Morrison was trying to build peace on one level, other humans were preparing for total war on another. President Carter looked around the room at the faces of her advisors. Some looked eager for revenge. Others looked scared of what they might have to do. All of them looked to her for leadership in humanity's darkest hour. "The aliens have made their position clear," she said finally. "They see us as a threat that must be eliminated. Jake's execution was just the beginning. They will not stop until every human is dead or enslaved." She stood up and walked to the window overlooking the White House lawn. Protesters filled the street beyond the gates, holding signs demanding justice for Jake Morrison. The crowds had been growing all day as news of the execution spread. "The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity," President Carter announced. "They killed our ambassador and broadcast his murder to terrorize us into submission. They think we will cower in fear and accept their judgment." She turned back to face the room. Her voice was cold and steady when she spoke again. "They are wrong. Earth does not kneel to anyone. If they want a war, they will get one. But it will not be the war they expect. We will not fight by their rules or show them the mercy they denied Jake Morrison." General Phillips stepped forward. "What are your orders, Madam President?" Lisa Carter looked at each person in the room one final time. She thought about Jake Morrison, who had died believing in peace between species. She thought about the billions of humans across the galaxy who were now in danger. She thought about the future of humanity itself. "Activate the Extermination Protocol," she ordered. "Show the galaxy what happens when you murder our ambassadors." The room erupted in activity as orders were sent to secret bases across the solar system. Earth's hidden war machine began to move. The aliens had started this fight by killing one man. Now they would learn the price of threatening humanity's survival. The war for the galaxy had begun. Colonel Steve Murphy floated in zero gravity inside the hidden asteroid base called Titan Station. Around him, thousands of workers moved like busy ants as they prepared humanity's secret war fleet for launch. The base had been carved out of a large asteroid 20 years ago. hidden so deep in the asteroid belt that no alien scanner could find it. Murphy watched as the massive doors of the main hangar slowly opened. Inside, rows of human warships waited in the darkness. These were not the small research vessels and cargo ships the aliens had seen before. These were weapons of war, built using alien technology that humans had stolen, studied, and improved over decades of secret work. The largest ship was the UES Vengeance, a heavy battlecruiser that stretched over 2 kilometers from front to back. Its hull was covered in armor made from materials that did not exist in nature. Human scientists had created the metal by combining alien alloys with Earth minerals in ways that no other species had ever tried. Captain Tony Mitchell walked across the bridge of the Vengeance, checking every system one final time. His crew of 300 men and women had trained for this day their entire adult lives. They had studied alien tactics, learned alien languages, and memorized the weak points of every alien ship design. "All systems show green," reported Lieutenant Amy Davis from her position at the weapons console. "The plasma cannons are charged and ready. The missile tubes are loaded with our special warheads." The special warheads were Dr. Miranda Foster's creation. Each missile contained millions of microscopic machines called nanobots. When the missiles hit alien ships, the nanobots would eat through alien metal like acid while leaving human materials, completely untouched. The aliens had never seen anything like these weapons. In another part of Titan Station, Dr. Foster stood in her laboratory, watching her greatest creation being loaded into delivery systems. The biological weapon she had created looked like ordinary water, but it contained engineered viruses that would target specific alien DNA patterns. "The Vorthax strain is ready for deployment," she told her assistant, Dr. Ken Harris. "It will attack their crystalline cellular structure and cause them to literally fall apart at the molecular level. The luminary strain will disrupt their energy matrices and cause their bodies to collapse into basic photons. Each alien species that had joined in Jake Morrison's murder would face their own specially designed plague. The Ketheri would find their exoskeletons dissolving. The Morgani would watch their bark-like skin crack and bleed. The Zephyrians would see their metal flesh rust and corrode." Foster had spent 15 years studying alien biology, learning how each species lived and breathed and reproduced. Now she was using that knowledge to destroy them all. She felt no guilt about this work. The aliens had started this war when they murdered an innocent human ambassador. Back on the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Mitchell received a coded message from Earth. President Carter had given the final order. Operation Payback was now active. Humanity's secret fleet would strike the aliens in one coordinated attack that would cripple their ability to fight back. "All ships, this is Vengeance Actual," Mitchell spoke into his communication system. "You have your orders. We launch in 30 minutes. Remember what they did to Ambassador Morrison. Remember that they want to wipe out every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy. Today we show them the price of threatening humanity." Similar messages were being sent from dozens of other hidden bases throughout the solar system. Behind the moons of Jupiter, a fleet of stealth ships prepared to attack alien supply lines. In the rings of Saturn, missile platforms powered up their weapons. Near Pluto, massive railguns aimed at distant alien worlds began charging their magnetic coils. The aliens had no idea what was coming. For 30 years, they had watched humanity with their sensors and spies. They saw only small ships, peaceful settlements, and primitive weapons. They never suspected that humans were masters of deception and misdirection. While Jake Morrison was shaking hands with alien diplomats, human engineers were reverse engineering every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on. While human scientists were sharing medical knowledge with alien doctors, other human scientists were creating diseases that would kill those same aliens. The human colony ships that had spread across nearby star systems were not just carrying families and farmers. Hidden in their cargo holds were weapons, soldiers, and the components needed to build military bases. What the aliens thought was peaceful expansion was actually humanity preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Commander Lisa Park sat in the command center of a hidden base built inside the moon. Her job was to coordinate the attacks on alien communication networks. Human hackers had spent years learning alien computer systems, finding ways to break into their networks and steal their secrets. "We have access to the Galactic Council's main communication hub," reported technician Dan Miller. "We can shut down their ability to send messages between worlds whenever you give the order." Park nodded grimly. "Wait for the signal from the fleet. We want their ships to start dying before they realize they cannot call for help." The first target was Kepler Station, the same place where Jake Morrison had been murdered. The aliens had chosen that location to show humanity their place in the galaxy. Now humans would use it to send their own message. Kepler Station was home to over 50,000 aliens from a dozen different species. It was the diplomatic center of their civilization, where treaties were signed and trade agreements were made. The aliens felt completely safe there, protected by their most advanced defense systems. They did not know that human spies had been mapping those defenses for 3 years. Agent Carlos Bennett had used his diplomatic cover to plant listening devices throughout the station. Other human agents had bribed alien criminals to provide detailed maps of the station's layout. The Vengeance and her escort ships approached Kepler Station using a route that avoided all the alien sensor nets. Human technology had progressed far beyond what the aliens suspected. The same species that seemed so primitive was about to demonstrate why humanity had conquered their own world through superior warfare. Captain Mitchell watched the alien station grow larger on his main screen. In a few minutes he would open, fire on a target full of civilians. Part of him felt sick about what he was about to do. But then he remembered Jake Morrison dissolving into atoms while alien judges watched without emotion. "All weapons, target the station's power core," Mitchell ordered. "We end this quickly." The first human missiles struck Kepler Station's shields and tore through them like they were made of paper. The aliens had designed their defenses to stop known weapons using known technology. They never prepared for weapons that attacked on the quantum level, unraveling the very atoms that held their shields together. Explosions rippled across the station's hull as human weapons found their targets. Emergency alarms wailed throughout the facility as thousands of aliens realized they were under attack. But their calls for help would never be answered. Commander Park had cut their communication lines at the exact moment the shooting started. Within 20 minutes, Kepler Station was a burning wreck drifting in space. The diplomatic center of galactic civilization had been destroyed by the same species the aliens thought they could intimidate into submission. But this was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, human ships were emerging from hiding places the aliens never knew existed. The species that had seemed so peaceful and harmless was revealing their true nature as the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens had executed one human ambassador to send a message. Now they would learn what message humanity was sending back. The first alien response came 12 hours after Kepler Station died. A fleet of 60 Vorthak crystal ships appeared near Jupiter, their hulls glowing with angry red light. The crystal beings had ruled their part of the galaxy for over 1,000,000 years. They had never lost a battle against any enemy. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched them approach from her command ship, the UES Retribution. The alien vessels looked beautiful and deadly, like living gemstones that could destroy planets. But Sullivan knew something the Vorthak did not. Human scientists had discovered that their crystal bodies had a fatal weakness. "All ships, activate the harmonic weapons," Sullivan ordered. "Target frequency 7.4. The human fleet began broadcasting a specific sound wave that human ears could not hear. But to the Vorthak, it was the sound of death itself. Their crystal bodies were like giant tuning forks. When the right frequency hit them, they began to vibrate and crack. Inside the alien ships, Vorthak warriors screamed as their bodies started falling apart. Their crystal forms, which had seemed so strong and beautiful, shattered like glass hit by a hammer. Within minutes, 60 enemy ships became clouds of glittering dust floating in space. The Vorthak home fleet never made it past Mars. Not a single human ship was damaged in the battle. Earth's children had turned the aliens' greatest strength into their weakest point. On the other side of the galaxy, Major Alex Turner led human ground forces onto the luminary world of Veltar. The luminary were beings of pure energy who lived in cities made of light itself. They thought their energy forms made them immune to physical weapons. They were wrong. Turner's soldiers carried weapons that fired concentrated electromagnetic pulses. When the energy beams hit luminary bodies, the light beings began to flicker and fade like dying candles. Their energy matrices, which had held together for thousands of years, collapsed into random photons. "Target the power nodes," Turner shouted to his troops as they advanced through a city that looked like it was built from rainbows. "Cut off their energy supply and they die." The human soldiers moved through the alien city like death itself. Everything they touched with their special weapons turned dark and cold. The Luminari, who had once been masters of light and energy, found themselves powerless against human technology, designed specifically to kill them. Back on Earth, Dr. Miranda Foster watched reports of her biological weapons spreading across alien worlds. The plagues she had created were working exactly as planned. Each disease targeted specific alien DNA while leaving every other form of life completely unharmed. On the Cathari spider world, millions of the 8-legged aliens were dying as their exoskeletons dissolved. Their bodies, which had been like natural armor, became soft and helpless. The spiders who had terrorized other species for centuries were reduced to helpless creatures that could barely move. The Morgani tree people watched in horror as their bark-like skin began to crack and bleed. The poison gas they breathed became toxic to their own bodies. Ancient Morgani who had lived for thousands of years died in agony as Foster's engineered virus ate them from the inside. Foster felt no pity as she watched the death reports come in. These same aliens had cheered when Jake Morrison was murdered. They had voted to execute an innocent human diplomat who only wanted peace. Now they were learning what humans did to enemies who killed their ambassadors. The Seraphim Collective, the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy, finally tried to negotiate. Their representative, a being that looked like a walking crystal statue covered in golden light, appeared on Earth's communication channels. "We wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict," the Seraphim ambassador said. "Surely we can find a peaceful solution to this misunderstanding." Ambassador Nicole Brooks, who had worked with Jake Morrison for years, gave humanity's reply. Her voice was cold and hard as steel when she spoke to the alien. "You executed our representative without cause. You declared war on our entire species. You broadcast his murder to terrorize us into submission. There is no misunderstanding here. There is only the consequences of your actions." The Seraphim ambassador's golden glow flickered with what might have been fear. "But surely you do not intend to destroy entire civilizations over the death of one individual?" Brooks smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Jake Morrison was not just one individual. He was our voice among the stars. He was our hope for peace between our peoples. You killed that hope when you killed him. Now you face the result. The communication ended. The Seraphim Collective, for all their ancient wisdom and advanced technology, had no answer for humanity's calculated fury. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such cold determination. Human fleets were now operating in every corner of the galaxy. Captain Tony Mitchell's task force had destroyed 3 major alien shipyards. Commander Lisa Park's hackers had crashed the computer networks of entire star systems. Major Turner's ground forces were conquering alien worlds that had not seen warfare in thousands of years. The aliens tried to fight back, but they were fighting the last war instead of this one. They used tactics that had worked against other aliens, enemies who fought for territory or resources or honor. They did not understand how to fight humans who were motivated by pure revenge. Every alien species had grown soft during the long peace between the stars. They had forgotten how to wage total war. Humans had never forgotten. Earth's children carried the memories of every battle their ancestors had fought, every enemy they had destroyed, every victory they had won through superior violence. On the former Council world of Nexus Prime, human ships dropped Foster's biological weapons like rain from the sky. The planet that had once been home to the Galactic Council's bureaucracy became a graveyard where no alien could survive. The survivors sent desperate messages across space, begging for help that would never come. The communication networks that had once connected the galaxy were now controlled by human hackers. No alien world could talk to another without human permission. Defense Secretary Bill Cooper stood in the Pentagon War Room, watching red lights disappear from the galactic map. One by one, each light represented an alien world that had gone silent. Some were dead, killed by human weapons or plagues. Others had surrendered and were waiting to learn their fate. "How many are left?" President Carter asked as she entered the room. Cooper looked at the map and counted the remaining lights. "Maybe 24 worlds out of the original 300 in the Council. Most of those are cut off from each other and running out of supplies. The war is effectively over." Carter nodded grimly. 6 months ago, the aliens had thought they could intimidate humanity by murdering one ambassador. They had seen humans as a minor threat that could be eliminated with a simple execution. They had been wrong about everything. Humans were not the peaceful farmers and scientists the aliens had observed. They were predators who had evolved through millions of years, warfare on a world that tried to kill them every day. They were survivors who had conquered their own planet through superior violence and cunning. The aliens had awakened something they did not understand. They had poked a sleeping dragon and then wondered why their worlds were burning. Jake Morrison's death had been meant to send a message to humanity about their place in the galactic order. Instead, it had triggered the complete destruction of that order. The galaxy that had existed for millions of years was ending, replaced by something new and terrible. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun, written in fire and blood across the stars. President Lisa Carter stood on the observation deck of what had once been Kepler Station. The place where Jake Morrison died was now called Morrison Station, rebuilt by human workers into a symbol of Earth's new power. Through the large windows, she could see hundreds of human ships patrolling the space lanes that aliens had once controlled. 6 months had passed since the war began. The Galactic Council no longer existed. The great alien civilizations that had ruled the stars for millions of years were gone, reduced to scattered groups hiding in remote corners of the galaxy. Their proud empires had become graveyards and quarantine zones where nothing lived except human-made plagues. Behind the president, construction crews worked day and night to expand the station. Morrison Station would become the center of humanity's new galactic government. From this place, humans would rule the stars and make sure no alien species ever again threatened Earth's children. General Ryan Phillips approached the president with a datapad containing the daily reports. His face showed no emotion as he read the numbers, but Carter knew he took no joy in the destruction they had caused. "The final Vorthak colony has surrendered," Phillips reported. "That leaves about 3,000 crystal beings alive out of their original population of 2 billion. They are asking for permission to settle on an uninhabited world in the Outer Rim." Carter nodded slowly. The Vorthak had been the strongest supporters of Jake's execution. Their chancellor had personally ordered the ambassador's death. Now their entire species was nearly extinct, saved only because a few colonies had surrendered before the human fleets arrived. "What about the Luminari?" Carter asked. "Fewer than 500 remain," Phillips replied. "Most of their energy cities have gone dark. The survivors are living in small groups on primitive worlds where they can barely maintain their physical forms. The light beings who had once commanded fleets of ships made from pure energy were now refugees struggling to survive on backwater planets. Their technology, their culture, their very existence depended on complex energy networks that human weapons had systematically destroyed." Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered the observation deck carrying her own set of reports. As the new director of alien affairs, her job was to manage the surviving alien populations and decide their fate. "The surrender documents have been signed by representatives of all remaining species," Rodriguez announced. "They have agreed to the terms we offered. Complete submission to human authority in exchange for limited survival rights." The terms were harsh but simple. Any alien species that wanted to continue existing had to accept human governors on their worlds. They could not build weapons, maintain large military forces, or develop technology without human approval. Their children would be educated in human schools and taught human values. Most importantly, they could never again claim the right to rule themselves. Admiral Kate Sullivan had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Galactic Security. Her job was to make sure the surviving aliens never forgot the lessons of this war. She entered the observation deck as Carter was reviewing the surrender documents. "The prison ships are ready for departure," Sullivan reported. "We have captured over 50,000 alien war criminals. Everyone who voted for Ambassador Morrison's execution, everyone who planned the frame job, everyone who supported the decision to eliminate humanity." Carter looked out at the ships floating in space beyond the station. Each vessel contained aliens who had participated in Jake Morrison's murder. They would spend the rest of their lives in human prison colonies, working to rebuild the worlds their war had destroyed. "Where will you send them?" Carter asked. "The mining colonies in the Kepler belt," Sullivan replied. "They will dig rare metals from dead asteroids for the rest of their lives. It seems appropriate that they should work to build the human empire they tried to prevent." Commander Lisa Park joined the group on the observation deck. She had been promoted to Director of Galactic Intelligence after her success in destroying alien communication networks. Her people now monitored every surviving alien world, watching for any sign of rebellion or resistance. "The re-education programs are showing good results," Park reported. "Young aliens are learning human languages and human values. In another generation, they will think of themselves as junior partners in human civilization rather than as conquered enemies." Carter knew this was necessary but still felt uncomfortable about it. The war had been started by alien leaders who feared and hated humanity, but now human leaders were reshaping entire civilizations to prevent future conflicts. They were doing exactly what the aliens had accused humans of wanting to do. The difference was that humans had not started this fight. They had tried to join the galactic community in peace. They had sent their best diplomat to build bridges between species. The aliens had responded by murdering him and threatening to destroy all of humanity. "What about Earth's expansion?" Carter asked General Phillips. "Colony ships are already en route to 300 former alien worlds," Phillips replied. "We estimate that within 50 years, humans will outnumber surviving aliens by at least 10 to 1. The galaxy will be predominantly human, with small alien populations living under our protection." The plan was working perfectly. Humanity was spreading across the stars faster than any previous species. Human families were settling on worlds that had been alien homes for thousands of years. Human children were being born on planets where no human had ever walked before the war. Dr. Miranda Foster approached the group with news about her ongoing biological research. The woman who had created weapons to kill aliens was now working to keep the survivors alive and healthy under human rule. "The genetic modification programs are ready for implementation," Foster announced. "We can alter alien DNA to make them more compatible with human society, remove their aggressive tendencies, increase their intelligence, make them more cooperative and peaceful." Carter felt a chill run down her spine. Foster was talking about changing the very nature of alien species, making them into something more acceptable to human sensibilities. It was the ultimate expression of human dominance over the galaxy. "Is that really necessary?" Carter asked. Foster nodded grimly. "These species proved they cannot be trusted with their natural instincts. They will always see humans as a threat, unless we change what they are at the most basic level. It is either genetic modification or eventual extinction." Carter realized that Foster was probably right. The surviving aliens would never truly accept human rule as long as they remembered what they had once been. Their children might learn to live in a human-dominated galaxy, but they would always carry the genetic memory of their species' former greatness. Ambassador Nicole Brooks entered the observation deck, carrying a large book bound in human leather. Inside were the names of every human who had died because of alien actions, starting with Jake Morrison and including the colonists who had been killed in the early days of the war. "The memorial is complete," Brooks announced. "Every human death has been recorded and honored. Future generations will remember what the aliens did to us and why we had to respond as we did." Carter took the book and opened it to the first page. Jake Morrison's name was written at the top in gold letters. Below it was his final message to Earth and a photo of him shaking hands with alien diplomats who had already decided to kill him. "He believed in peace between our species," Carter said quietly. "He thought we could find a way to live together among the stars." "Maybe we still can," Rodriguez replied. But it will be peace on human terms, with humans in charge and aliens learning to accept their place in our civilization. Carter looked out at the galaxy beyond the station's windows. Somewhere out there, the last free aliens were hiding on distant worlds, afraid to show themselves to human censors. They were the survivors of civilizations that had ruled the stars when humanity was still living in caves on Earth. Now those ancient species existed only at human sufferance. They lived, or died based on human decisions. They could have children only if humans allowed it. They could build only what humans permitted. They could dream only dreams that humans approved. The galaxy had a new master species, and that species was humanity. Jake Morrison's death had been meant to keep humans in their place as junior members of the galactic community. Instead, it had triggered humanity's rise to become the sole rulers of all known space. Carter closed the memorial book and handed it back to Brooks. Tomorrow, she would give a speech to the human colonists who were settling on former alien worlds. She would tell them about their responsibility to rule wisely and fairly, to be better masters than the aliens had been. But tonight, she stood in the place where Jake Morrison had died and looked out at the empire his death had created. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, won through blood and fire, and the memory of a good man who had tried to build bridges instead of graves. The age of humanity had begun, and it would last until the stars themselves burned out. Jake Morrison felt his hands shake as he stood on the bridge of the ESS Liberty. The biggest human ship ever built was floating in empty space, waiting for something that would change everything. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew this moment would decide if humans lived or died. The large screen in front of them flickered and came to life. 12 strange shapes appeared on the screen. These were the Galaxy Council, the aliens who ruled all the stars that humans had ever seen. They looked scary and powerful. Some had too many arms. Others glowed with strange light. One looked like it was made of living crystal. The crystal being spoke first. Its voice was deep and cold. Small creatures from the third planet of Sol. You have made a big mistake. We are the Galaxy Council. We have ruled this galaxy for millions of your years. You will listen and obey. Jake tried to keep his face calm, but inside he felt afraid. Next to him, Admiral Lisa Carter stood with her, back straight. She was the highest-ranking human officer in space. Her gray hair was pulled back tight and her blue eyes were hard as steel. She had fought in 3 wars on Earth, but nothing like this. You humans have built homes on a world that belongs to us, the crystal alien continued. The world you call New Haven is sacred to us. It is where consciousness first began in this galaxy. Your people cannot stay there. Behind Jake, Lieutenant Commander Danny Torres watched the communication systems. He made sure every word was being sent back to Earth. His young face was serious. This was the most important message humans had ever received. We give you 48 of your hours, said the crystal being. Remove all your people from our sacred world. Take all your ships back to your home system. If you do not obey, we will destroy every human in the galaxy. This is not a request. This is an order. Commander Amy Rodriguez, who controlled the ship's weapons, whispered under her breath. 6 months we tried to talk to them, 6 months of peace meetings, and this is what we get. On another screen, President Helen Martinez appeared from Earth. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but Jake knew she was tough as iron. She had led Earth through the worst economic crisis in history. Now she faced something much worse. Honored members of the Galaxy Council, President Martinez said, her voice steady. We respect your ancient claim to this world, but 50,000 humans now live on New Haven. They have built homes. They have had children. We want to find a way for our people to share this world with you. We can work together. The crystal alien seemed to grow brighter. If Jake didn't know better, he would think it was laughing. Work together. Your species learned to use fire yesterday in Galactic time. We were old when your son was young. There is no sharing. There is only obedience or death. Other aliens on the council made sounds that might have been agreement. One that looked like a giant spider clicked its legs. Another, that floated in a bubble of green gas, made a noise like breaking glass. "Your species spreads like a disease," said another council member. "This one had scales and too many teeth. You take worlds that do not belong to you. You ask questions about things you should not know. You will be stopped." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Humans had done nothing wrong. They had found an empty world and made it beautiful. They had grown food and built cities. They had been careful not to hurt any native life. How could that be wrong? "We understand your concern," President Martinez said, "but destroying entire worlds of innocent people cannot be the answer. There must be another way." "There is no other way," the crystal being said. Its voice was final. "You have 48 hours. After that, your species will be removed from existence. We have done this before. We will do it again if needed." The RAW transmission ended. The screen went dark. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had families back on Earth. They had dreams and hopes. Now some aliens they had never met wanted to kill them all because humans had built farms on an empty world. "Orders, Admiral?" Jake asked. Lisa Carter stared at the dark screen for a long moment. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the Council has rejected all negotiations. Then get me a secure line to President Martinez." "Yes, ma'am," Danny Torres said, his fingers flying over his controls. Amy Rodriguez turned in her chair. "Admiral, our sensors show Council ships moving toward human space. Big ones. More firepower than we've ever seen." "How many ships?" Carter asked. "At least 200, ma'am. Maybe more. They're coming from all directions." Jake felt his stomach drop. Earth's entire space fleet had maybe 50 ships. They were fast and smart, but not built for a war like this. "There's something else," Amy continued. "They're not just military ships. I'm seeing colony ships, construction ships, mining ships. It's like they're planning to move in after they remove us." President Martinez's face appeared on the secure screen. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral Carter, I assume you heard everything." "Yes, ma'am." "What are your orders?" The president was quiet for a moment. "Begin evacuation of New Haven. We'll comply with their demands." Jake felt his heart sink. They were just going to give up. "But ma'am," Carter said, "if we back down now, they'll just make more demands. Today it's New Haven. Tomorrow it might be Earth itself." "I know," Martinez said, "but I won't let 50,000 people die for pride. Begin the evacuation." "That's an order." The screen went dark again. Jake looked at his crew. They all looked defeated. But Admiral Carter had a strange look in her eyes. "Danny, send the evacuation order to New Haven. Amy, begin calculating jump routes back to Earth." "Yes, ma'am," they both said. Carter walked to the center of the bridge. "But first, get me a secure channel to Dr. Kevin Blake at Cheyenne Mountain. Ultra-black clearance only." Jake had never heard that name before. Amy and Danny looked confused too. "Ma'am?" Jake asked. Carter smiled for the first time since the Council's message. It was not a nice smile. "The Galaxy Council thinks they know everything about humans. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Deep under a mountain in Colorado, Dr. Kevin Blake walked into the most secret room on Earth. The walls were thick metal and concrete. No signals could get in or out without permission. Only 12 people in the world knew this place existed. Around a long table sat the most powerful people in human space. President Martinez was there by video link. General Patricia Hayes, who commanded all of Earth's armies, sat across from the head of Earth's spy agency, Paul Anderson. These people made decisions that affected billions of lives. Kevin looked tired. He had not slept in 2 days. His gray hair was messy and his clothes were wrinkled, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "Thank you all for coming," Kevin said. "What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about this war." He pressed a button and the lights dimmed. A huge hologram appeared over the table. It showed the galaxy, but not like any map they had seen before. This one was covered in lines of light that connected star to star. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kevin continued, "for 15 years we have been preparing for this day. We knew the Galaxy Council would eventually see us as a threat. We have been getting ready. General Hayes leaned forward. She was a tough woman who had fought in wars on 3 different worlds. Explain, Doctor. What exactly have you been preparing? Kevin smiled. The Galaxy Council is not as strong as they want us to believe. Our spy ships have been watching them for years. We know their secrets. More important, we know their biggest fear. The hologram changed to show brain scans and energy readings. Strange waves pulsed across the display in colors that hurt to look at. Dr. Nancy Collins, Kevin's assistant, stood up. She was young, but very smart. Human brains are different from alien brains. We create something we call psi resonance. It's like a radio signal that comes from thinking, but our signal is special. Special how? Asked President Martinez from the screen. Kevin touched another button. The hologram showed ancient machines buried on worlds across the galaxy. The Galaxy Council rules using old technology. Machines built by a race that died out millions of years ago. The Council thinks they control these machines. They are wrong. Paul Anderson, the spy chief, opened a thick folder. Our agents have been very busy. 3 species in the Galaxy Council want the Council to end. The Zephyrians hate the crystal beings who lead the Council. The Keth want freedom to explore space. The Void Runners are tired of being treated like slaves. They've been sending us secret messages, Anderson continued. They want to rebel, but they need help. They're waiting for the right moment. General Hayes studied the data on her tablet. What kind of help? Kevin's smile grew wider. We're going to give the Galaxy Council exactly what they asked for. We're going to remove humans from their space, but not in the way they think. President Martinez looked confused. I don't understand. Nancy stepped forward. The ancient machines respond to consciousness. But not just any consciousness. They were built to respond to minds like ours. Human minds. The Galaxy Council has been using these machines for thousands of years, but they've never been able to fully control them. Because they're not human, Kevin added. The machines have been waiting for the right kind of minds to come along. Our minds. The hologram showed Earth and all the human colonies. Bright dots marked every world where humans lived. We have 50 million people spread across 23 worlds. Each person has a brain that can connect to the ancient network. If we link them all together, we become the most powerful force in the galaxy. General Hayes finished. President. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Blake? Kevin pressed another button. The hologram showed the Galaxy Council's main station. It was huge, bigger than Earth's moon. Around it floated hundreds of warships. The Council thinks in straight lines, Kevin explained. They see a problem, they destroy it. They don't expect clever solutions. Tomorrow they will gather to watch us surrender. All their leaders will be in one place, all their best ships will be there too. And? The president asked. And we're going to make them disappear. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Kevin. Disappear? How? General Hayes asked. Nancy pulled up new displays. The ancient network doesn't just control machines, it controls space and time. We can create pocket dimensions, small universes that exist outside normal space. You want to trap them in another dimension? Paul Anderson asked. Not trap, Kevin corrected. Relocate. The Council will find themselves in a place where they can't hurt anyone. They'll be alive and safe, but they won't be able to threaten Earth or anyone else. President Martinez rubbed her forehead. This sounds like science fiction, Dr. Blake. So did flying to other stars 50 years ago, Kevin replied. Ma'am, we have the power to end this war without firing a shot. No humans have to die, no aliens have to die, the Council just goes away. General Hayes looked at the battle plans on her tablet. Our normal fleet doesn't stand a chance against them. If this doesn't work, we lose everything. If we don't try, we lose everything anyway, Nancy said quietly. Paul Anderson closed his folder. The rebellion species are ready. They have ships in position. If we remove the Council, they can take control of key systems before chaos breaks out. How long do we have to decide? President Martinez asked. Kevin checked his watch. The Council expects our surrender in 36 hours. We need to start the process in 24 hours if we want it to work. The President looked at each person around the table. These were the people she trusted most in the world. Each had devoted their lives to protecting humanity. The risks? She asked. If it fails, the Galaxy Council destroys us faster, General Hayes said. If it works, we become responsible for the entire galaxy, Paul Anderson added. And if we do, nothing. 50,000 people on New Haven die, and probably everyone on Earth after that, Nancy said. President Martinez was quiet for 2 full minutes. Everyone waited. The fate of humanity hung on her next words. Dr. Blake, she finally said, begin Project Prometheus, but I want safeguards. If this goes wrong, I want a way to stop it. Kevin nodded. Already built in, ma'am. We can shut down the whole system if needed. Then God help us all, the President said. Let's make the Galaxy Council disappear. As the meeting ended and people began to leave, Kevin stayed behind with Nancy. They looked at the holographic display showing all of human space. Are you sure this will work? Nancy asked quietly. Kevin was quiet for a moment. The math says yes. The alien rebels say yes. The ancient machines say yes. But we're about to find out if humans are really as special as we think we are. Tomorrow we'll know if we can save ourselves or if we've just made everything worse. Outside the mountain, normal people lived normal lives. They had no idea that their future was being decided in a secret room deep underground. Soon, every human alive would be part of the most important moment in galactic history. Kiwi, countdown to Project Prometheus had begun. High Arbiter Zexthal floated in the center of the Galaxy Council chamber. The massive station orbited near the bright center of the galaxy. Stars swirled around them like jewels on black cloth. Today would be a good day. Today the humans would learn their place. The crystal being pulsed with satisfaction as reports came in from across the galaxy. All Council fleets were moving toward human space. Over 300 warships, each one capable of destroying planets. The humans had maybe 50 small ships. This would not be a battle. This would be an extermination. Status report, Zexthal commanded. War Prime Gorth stepped forward. He was huge, even for his species. Thick armor covered his body, and 4 arms ended in claws that could cut through steel. All battle groups are in position. The human worlds are surrounded. We await your command to begin the cleansing. And the humans? Have they responded to our generous offer? Gorth made a sound like grinding metal that passed for laughter among his people. They have gone silent. Our sensors show their ships powering down across all sectors. Many are already retreating toward their home system. As expected, Zexthal said, its crystalline form grew brighter with pleasure. Primitive species always submit when faced with true power. They understand they cannot fight beings who ruled the galaxy when their sun was nothing but dust and gas. The other council members made sounds of agreement. The spider-like Kretak clicked its 8 legs on the metal floor. The gas-breathing Velmoth bubbled in its atmospheric suit. All of them had waited for this moment. The humans had been asking too many questions, exploring too many worlds, growing too fast. It was time to end their expansion forever. But far away, hidden in a dark nebula, Captain Jake Morrison watched everything through long-range sensors. The ESS Liberty floated silent and dark, its engines barely running. Around it, 11 other human ships waited like hunters in the shadows. Phase 1 complete, Jake reported to Admiral Carter through quantum communication. All Council military assets are moving toward the chamber, just like we predicted. Admiral Carter's voice came back clear and calm. Confirmed, Captain. Begin Phase 2. Jake turned to his crew. They all looked nervous but determined. Today, they would either save humanity or watch it die. Danny, send the all-clear signal to Dr. Blake. Amy, make sure our jump drives are ready. We may need to run very fast very soon. Yes, sir, they both replied. On Earth, deep under Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Kevin Blake watched screens that showed the entire galaxy. 50 million humans on 23 worlds were all connected through quantum links. Each person wore a small device that let their minds work together as one giant brain. Psi resonance at maximum levels, reported Dr. Nancy Collins. Her hands moved quickly over her controls. All colonies are synchronized. Everyone is ready. Kevin felt sweat on his forehead. 15 years of preparation had led to this moment. Either humans would take control of the ancient network, or they would all die trying. Dr. Blake, came President Martinez's voice over the secure channel. The evacuation ships from New Haven are reporting council forces surrounding them. If this doesn't work, it will work, ma'am, Kevin said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The math is perfect. The resonance is stable. The ancient machines are responding. Across human space, normal people sat quietly in their homes. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they knew it was important. Children held their parents' hands. Old people remembered wars from long ago. Everyone thought the same thoughts, felt the same hope, focused on the same goal. Lieutenant Susan Clark had made the discovery that made all this possible. She was young for such an important job, but she was the best at reading ancient alien writing. 6 months ago, she had found the truth about the control nodes. The original builders weren't like the council species, she had explained to Kevin. They thought like us. They felt like us. They built the network to respond to minds that could imagine, dream, and hope. The council species are too rigid, too focused on control. The machines have been waiting millions of years for the right kind of consciousness to come along. Now that consciousness was about to wake up. Initiating Prometheus Protocol, Dr. Blake announced. Across the galaxy, ancient machines that had slept for eons suddenly came to life. On dead worlds and empty space buried deep in planets, the control nodes began to glow. They felt something they had not felt since their creators died. They felt minds that understood them. In the council chamber, High Arbiter Zexthul was enjoying the moment of victory when everything went wrong. "What is that sound?" demanded the Kretak as a deep humming filled the station. Gorth checked his instruments. Unknown energy readings throughout the chamber. Power levels are increasing rapidly. Zexthul's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Impossible. All ancient systems are under our control. But the humming grew louder. The walls began to glow with strange light. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist around them. High Arbiter, called out Velmoth through its breathing apparatus. Our ships are reporting the same phenomenon. Every control node in the galaxy is activating simultaneously. That cannot be, Zexthul said, but doubt crept into its voice. We are the masters of the ancient network. We have controlled it for thousands of years. The station shook as waves of energy passed through it. On screens around the chamber, they could see their mighty fleet caught in the same strange field. Ships that had destroyed worlds now floated helplessly as unknown forces took control of their systems. "It's the humans," whispered one of the smaller council members. "They've done something to the network." "Impossible," Zexthul repeated, but its light was dimming with fear. "They are primitives. They barely understand their own technology." Jake Morrison, watching from the nebula, saw the energy readings spike across his instruments. "It's working," he breathed. "The network is responding." On Earth, Kevin Blake watched as every control node in the galaxy came under human control. The ancient machines recognized their true masters and obeyed. The network that the Galaxy Council had used to maintain power for millennia now served humanity. "Displacement field is stable," Nancy reported. "Creating pocket dimension." Now. In the council chamber, High Arbiter Zexthul felt reality slip away. The last thing it saw was its reflection in the chamber's windows, growing fainter and fainter, until it was nothing but a ghost of light. "What have you done?" it called out, but its voice was already fading. The Galaxy Council, their massive station, and their entire fleet of 300 warships simply vanished from normal space. Not destroyed, not scattered, but moved, displaced into a pocket dimension, where they would exist outside normal time and space, unable to threaten anyone ever again. Jake stared at his sensors in amazement. Where moments before had been the largest military force in galactic history, now there was only empty space and distant stars. "My God," whispered Amy Rodriguez. "They're actually gone." "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," came the voice over the communication system. "Phase 3 begins now. Contact the rebel fleets. Tell them the galaxy is free." Jake smiled as he gave the order to drop out of hiding. Humanity had just won the most important battle in galactic history without firing a single shot. The Galaxy Council had vanished in minutes, just as planned. But Jake knew this was only the beginning. Now came the hard part. Now humanity had to figure out what to do with an entire galaxy that suddenly had no rulers at all. The first message came 3 hours after the Galaxy Council disappeared. Lieutenant Commander Danny Torres looked up from his communication station with wide eyes. "Captain Morrison, we're getting a signal from the Zephyrian Rebellion fleet. They're requesting immediate assistance." Jake felt his heart racing. This was the moment they had planned for, but it still felt unreal. "Put them through, Danny." The main screen flickered and showed a reptilian face with golden scales and bright green eyes. Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian fleet looked tired but hopeful. "Human allies," she said, her voice carrying relief that crossed species barriers. "The impossible has happened. The Council is truly gone. 300 worlds are calling for our help. They want to be free, but they don't know how." Admiral Carter's voice came through from Earth Command. "Captain Morrison, you are now our primary diplomatic contact. Work with Commander Veltar to coordinate liberation efforts." Jake nodded, though he felt overwhelmed. Yesterday he was a ship captain. Today he was helping to rebuild an entire galaxy. "Commander Veltar," he said, "what do you need from us?" "Everything," she replied honestly. "Food, medicine, ships, people who know how to organize governments. The Council kept everyone dependent on them. Most worlds don't even know how to run their own power systems." On Earth, Dr. Nancy Collins worked frantically in the control room under Cheyenne Mountain. Screens around her showed the ancient network that humans now controlled. The responsibility was enormous. "Kevin," she called to Dr. Blake, "we have a problem. The network isn't just defensive systems. It controls transportation, communication, energy distribution for the entire galaxy. If we make a mistake, billions of people could lose power or air or heat." Kevin rubbed his tired eyes. "How many people do we need to keep this running?" "At least 5,000 humans working in shifts around the clock, and they all need to be connected through the quantum links. It's like being the nervous system for the whole galaxy." Back in space, Jake was learning just how big the problem was. His ship's communication system was flooded with messages from across the galaxy. Every species that had been under Council rule was asking for help. "Commander," Amy Rodriguez showed him the tactical display. "Sir, we're getting reports of fighting on 17 different worlds. Some species are trying to take control of others. Some are just fighting among themselves. It's chaos out there." "What about the rebel fleets?" Jake asked. "The Zephyrians, Keth and Void Runners are doing their best, but they're spread too thin. There are over 400 inhabited systems in Council space. We need more ships and more people." Jake opened a secure channel to Admiral Carter. "Admiral, we need reinforcements. The entire galaxy is looking to us for leadership, and we don't have enough people." Carter's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than she had just days ago. "I know, Captain, we're pulling together every available ship and crew member. But we're asking people to leave their families and risk their lives to help aliens they've never met. And are they willing?" "More than willing. We've got volunteers lining up at every recruitment center. Turns out saving the galaxy is pretty good motivation." On New Haven, the world that had started this whole crisis, colonist leader Ben Parker was organizing relief efforts. The Council had surrounded their world with warships, but now those ships were gone. The colonists were free, but they knew their real work was just beginning. "How many refugee ships are coming?" he asked his aide, Maria Santos. 47 so far, with more on the way. Mostly Keth and Zephyrian families who were forced to work in Council factories. They have nowhere else to go. Ben nodded. "Then we make room. These people fought for freedom too. We'll help them build new lives. President Martinez addressed the world from the White House. My fellow humans, she said, we face a choice that no species in galactic history has ever faced. We can return to our quiet lives on our own worlds, or we can help build something better for everyone. I won't lie to you. This will be hard. It will take years, maybe decades. We'll make mistakes. Some of our people will die helping others. But we have the chance to create a galaxy where every species is free to grow and learn and explore. We didn't ask for this responsibility, but it's ours now. I believe humanity is ready for this challenge. Back on the ESS Liberty, Jake was meeting with leaders from a dozen different species. They had gathered in the ship's conference room, though some needed special atmosphere suits or gravity adjustments. The Democratic Galactic Alliance, explained Dr. Pete Wilson, Earth's new ambassador to alien species. Every world gets a vote, every species gets representation, no one rules over anyone else. A tall, thin alien with purple skin raised what might have been a hand. But who makes the final decisions when species disagree? A council chosen by vote from all member worlds, Wilson replied, and every few years, new elections. What if some species choose not to join? Asked a small, furry creature that looked like a cross between a cat and a bird. Jake leaned forward. Then they don't join. Freedom includes the freedom to be alone if that's what you want. But you can't attack or threaten other worlds. The discussions went on for hours. Some species had never heard of democracy. Others had tried it and failed. A few were afraid that without strong rulers, chaos would take over. But slowly agreements began to form. The Zephyrians would help with security. The Keth, who were natural explorers, would map safe travel routes. The Void Runners would help with communication systems. On Earth, General Patricia Hayes was coordinating the biggest logistical operation in human history. Ships full of food, medicine, and supplies were launching toward dozens of worlds. Engineers and doctors volunteered for assignments that might last years. How are we paying for all this? Asked Treasury Secretary Linda Chang during a cabinet meeting. We're not, in the traditional sense, replied Dr. Blake, who had joined the meeting by video link. The ancient network gives us access to energy and resources we never dreamed of. We can literally create what we need from raw materials. But there's a cost, he continued. Every human connected to the network feels the strain. We're sharing our consciousness with machines that span the galaxy. Some people are having trouble sleeping, eating, focusing on normal life. President Martinez frowned. Are we asking too much of our people? I don't know yet, Blake admitted. We're in uncharted territory. No species has ever tried to do what we're doing. 3 weeks after the Council's disappearance, Jake stood on the observation deck of New Haven Station. It was humanity's first purpose-built diplomatic facility, constructed in just days using the ancient network's capabilities. Through the large windows, he could see ships from 30 different species. Some were bringing refugees to safety. Others carried supplies to worlds in need. A few were just exploring, free for the first time in centuries to travel where they wanted. Commander Veltar joined him at the window. Your people are remarkable, Captain Morrison. In 3 weeks, you've done more good than the Council did in 3,000 years. We had help, Jake replied. A lot of help. Yes, but you chose to help instead of rule. The Council would have. Use this power to control everyone. You're using it to free everyone. Jake nodded, but he felt the weight of responsibility. Every day brought new crises, new problems, new species asking for help. Earth's population was working overtime to support the network. Other human colonies were struggling to adapt to their new role as galactic coordinators. Veltar, he said, are we doing the right thing? The Zephyrian commander looked at him with those bright green eyes. Captain, my people were slaves for 800 years. My children will grow up free. Yes, you are doing the right thing. As Jake watched the ships moving peacefully through space, he felt hope for the future. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks and failures. Some species might choose war over peace. Some humans might decide the burden was too much. But for the first time in galactic history, every species had a choice. And that, Jake thought, was worth any sacrifice. 6 months had passed since the Galaxy Council disappeared. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in his new office on New Haven Station, looking out at the busiest spaceport in the galaxy. Ships from 40 different species came and went every day. Trade flowed freely between worlds that had never been allowed to meet under Council rule. But Jake's face showed worry, not celebration. The reports on his desk told a story that troubled him deeply. Dr. Nancy Collins entered his office carrying a thick folder. She looked tired. All the humans connected to the ancient network looked tired these days. The latest medical reports. "Admiral," she said, setting the folder down. "We're losing people." Jake opened the folder and read the numbers. On Earth, 12 people had died this week from exhaustion related to maintaining the network. On Mars, 3 more had collapsed and couldn't be awakened. On the outer colonies, families were begging their loved ones to disconnect from the system. "How many total?" Jake asked, though he dreaded the answer. 837 dead. 3,000 more showing serious symptoms. The doctors say we're asking human brains to do something they weren't designed for. Jake closed the folder. Each number represented someone's parent, child, friend. Good people who had volunteered to keep the galaxy running were dying because of the burden. Lieutenant Susan Clark, now promoted to Director of Ancient Studies, joined them. She carried her own set of troubling reports. "There's more, Admiral. I found something in the archives. The original builders of the network faced the same problem we're facing." She activated a holographic display showing ancient alien writings. They called themselves the Architects. They built the network to bring peace to their galaxy. But maintaining it required total dedication. Eventually, their entire civilization existed only to keep the machines running. "What happened to them?" Jake asked. "They transcended physical existence, became pure consciousness merged with the network. Their bodies died, but their minds became part of the system forever." Nancy sank into a chair. "Are you saying that's what's happening to us?" "I'm saying it's a possibility. The network is incredibly powerful, but it demands everything from those who run it." Jake's communication system chimed. President Martinez appeared on the screen, calling from Earth. "Admiral Morrison, we need to talk. I'm getting reports from across human space. Colony leaders are demanding we reduce our connection to the network. Some are threatening to disconnect entirely. Ma'am, if we reduce the network connections, we can't maintain galactic stability. Food shipments will stop, communication will fail, some worlds might lose life support." "I know that, Admiral, but I also know that I'm asking human beings to sacrifice their lives and sanity for the greater good. How long can we continue this?" Before Jake could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Commander Amy Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, to the command center immediately. We've got a big problem." Jake, Nancy, and Susan ran to the command center. The main display showed readings that made Jake's blood run cold. "Report," he ordered. Amy pointed to the screen. "Long-range sensors are detecting quantum fluctuations in the pocket dimension where we sent the Galaxy Council. They're trying to communicate." "That's impossible," Nancy said. "The dimensional barrier should be absolute." "Apparently not," Amy replied. "We're getting structured signals. They've figured out how to send messages across dimensional boundaries." The signals were weak, but clear. After 6 months of isolation, High Arbiter Zexthal was trying to contact the outside universe. Dr. Kevin Blake's voice came through from Earth. "Admiral, we're receiving the same signals here. The Council is learning how to manipulate dimensional energy. If they keep advancing, they might find a way back." Jake felt the weight of impossible choices. Keep the network running and watch humans die from exhaustion. Reduce the network and watch galactic civilization collapse. Either way, the Galaxy Council might return to a weakened galaxy. "There's a fourth option," Susan said quietly. Everyone looked at her. "We give the Council a choice." "Explain," Jake said. Susan pulled up the dimensional readings. "We can expand their pocket dimension, make it a full universe where they can rule as they wish. Or we can bring them back to a galaxy where they have to accept the new democratic order." "You want to negotiate with them?" Amy asked in disbelief. I want to give them what they really want, Susan replied. Power, but power that can't hurt anyone else. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders that would affect the entire galaxy. Open a channel to the pocket dimension, he finally said. The communication system crackled, with static. Then slowly the familiar crystalline form of High Arbiter Zexthal appeared on the screen. So, it said, its voice weaker than before but still proud. The humans finally answer. High Arbiter, Jake said formally. I'm Admiral Morrison of the Democratic Galactic Alliance. We have a proposal for you. Your proposal? Zexthal's form flickered. You displaced us from our rightful place. You stole our authority. What could you possibly offer us? A choice, Jake replied. Return to the galaxy and accept that every species, including yours, has equal rights. No more ruling over others. No more threats of extinction. Work with us to build something better. Or, Zexthal asked, or we expand your current dimension into a complete universe. You can rule it however you wish. Create whatever society you want. But it will be separate from our galaxy forever. The council leader was silent for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice carried something Jake had never heard before. Uncertainty. In our isolation, we have had time to think. Time to remember what we were before we became rulers. We were explorers once, scientists, artists. We created beautiful things before we became obsessed with controlling others. You can be those things again, Jake said, in either choice. If we return to your galaxy, what guarantee do we have that you won't simply exile us again when we become inconvenient? Jake looked at Nancy and Susan. They nodded. The same guarantee any species has. The rule of law, democratic process, the right to be heard and to vote. You'll be citizens, not rulers, but you'll be free citizens. Zexthal's form grew brighter, and if we choose our own universe, then you'll be the gods of your own domain, ultimate power over your own realm. The transmission was quiet for several minutes. Jake could imagine the council debating among themselves, weighing ultimate power against uncertain freedom. Finally, Zexthal spoke. We choose to return. Perhaps in our exile, we learned something valuable. That ruling and leading are different things. That power shared is stronger than power hoarded. We have much to learn about this democracy you speak of, but we have eternity to learn it. Jake smiled. Welcome back to the galaxy, High Arbiter. I think you'll find it's a much more interesting place when everyone has a voice. As the dimensional portal began to open, Jake thought about the future. The council's return would create new challenges. Some species would be afraid. Others would be angry. There would be problems and conflicts and difficult decisions. But for the first time since the network had chosen humanity, Jake felt hope. The galaxy was no longer divided between rulers and subjects. Everyone, even former tyrants, could choose their own path. The ancient network still needed human consciousness to function, but now it served a galaxy where every mind mattered. Where former enemies could become allies. Where the greatest power was not the power to destroy, but the power to create something better together. Jake looked out at the stars and smiled. The real work was just beginning, but humanity had proven something important. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to help your enemies find a better way to live. The galaxy was free, and everyone in it, including the former Galaxy Council, would help decide what that freedom meant.